Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is currently 5:27 a.m. East Coast time, Thursday, August 29th. I want to stop by with another season-long video, and we're going to talk about today 8 players that I think are must-haves at their current ADP across any position right now. So not just values, it could be guys in the second round, the third round, anything. They're must-haves at their current ADP, their current average draft position. My name is Vetri. I do cover fantasy sports, daily fantasy sports, season-long for the NFL, fantasy football, and really all different sports. But now the big season, fantasy football is here, so I appreciate it. If this is your first time finding me, there's a good chance that it is. I'm reaching a new audience with these videos, the way they're ranking. So I do appreciate it. If you hit that like button, if you get any value from this video, please join the community. Hit the subscribe button. We're approaching 7,000 subscribers, growing this thing pretty big this year. So I'm going to give you 8 players that at their current ADPs in a PPR format, if it's a 10, 12, 14-man league, whatever it is, I'm looking at 12-man league draft positions because those are just by far the most frequent. But that's what we're looking at right now. I'm going to give you 8 players. We're going to go through it, and then let me know what you think down below in the comments or at me on Twitter, at SalVetriDFS. Let's get into the video. So right away, Tyler Boyd. If you're getting Tyler Boyd in the middle of the 5th or the end of the 5th round, or if you were getting him a couple of weeks ago in July in the 6th round, this is a steal and a half. I would be taking Tyler Boyd in the 4th round. This is one player that I'm fine reaching for around early to get to. AJ Green right now, and some people are telling me that they would rather draft AJ Green and then use him as trade bait. I would rather just draft the guys around him in that same range and not try and trade for them 5 weeks later and hope that they want to, right? Just get the solidified draft pick in volume and actually playing time from a guy. Tyler Boyd, who, yes, last year he was kind of going a little bit more, maybe let's just say, unnoticed and not as productive without AJ Green out there, right? It's really hard for him to be that number 1 wide receiver. But it seems like he's going to play every single snap in this offense when AJ Green is not out there. And even when he returns, he'll be playing just as many snaps. And with AJ Green not out there, Tyler Boyd is going to be presumably the number 1 slot receiver. I don't know if you've seen any of my videos. Slot receivers are a big deal. If you don't know why slot receivers are a big deal, let's do a little quick education level or a quick little education course right now on slot wide receivers. On the very high level, they're a very talented wide receiver going into the slot has a mismatch in just skill and size, right? They're going to be bigger than the guy who's the slot cornerback because they're used to playing the shorter, shiftier players in the slot like a Wes Welker or an Adam Humphries currently, right? So they're going to have just more overall size on them. They're going to have more skill because that guy's usually the number 3 or 4 cornerback because they usually put those guys on the outside that are the better cornerbacks to try and stop who is usually the more talented wide receiver on the outside. You move your wide receiver into the slot, as many teams have been doing, as Odell Beckham just made his really career out of being in the slot and just burning bad cornerbacks. Not only do you have just a skill level upside, you have the ability to do so much more with your skills. You're not just running and trying to beat a guy to the 1 foot that you have on the left boundary if you're on the left side of the field, or the 1 foot that you have on the right if you're on the right side of the field. You have the entire middle of the field to work with. You can go either way, and then also just going to be so much more attention on those outside receivers. Being in the slot is just such an advantage. Tyler Boyd is going to be there. He's going to be on the field for almost all these snaps and getting peppered with targets from Andy Dalton, who he really didn't have for most of the season last year when he was quote-unquote struggling without AJ Green. Tyler Boyd is a 5th to 6th round pick right now, is probably the best 5th to 6th round pick if we're not considering quarterbacks there, because there's a ton of great quarterback picks in that range if you do pick quarterbacks in that range. But if we're talking about wide receivers and running backs, Tyler Boyd is the best pick in that range. If you're avoiding him for some reason, don't be. He's going to be a PPR monster. And the fact that AJ Green has now already been ruled out for pretty much the whole first quarter of the season, first 3 to 4 weeks, and his injury is likely to linger all season long / re-injure or re-aggravate it. Like, there's been no good news coming out of camp on AJ Green. If you get Tyler Boyd for the bulk of this season, you already get him for 25% of the season as the number 1 guy going to be peppered with double-digit targets a week. If you get him for even more, and you're likely to get that with this injury that AJ Green has, it's going to be fantastic. So make sure to get your eyes on Tyler Boyd, and I don't mind reaching for him around early. Next one is Chris the God Godwin. So Chris Godwin, former Penn Stater. He's now going into, I believe, his 3rd year of action in this league, and he's just about to blow up. Similar to Tyler Boyd, he's going to be in the slot. In the preseason, he has been on the field for every single one of Jameis Winston's snaps. You have Mike Evans out there, who I also am high on, and I believe he's going to have a great year. Chris Godwin might be the number 1 receiver on this team. Oh, Sal, you don't know what you're talking about. Mike Evans is out there. No, pay attention. Chris Godwin is going to be in the slot, which we just said is an absolute advantage over being on the outside. He was in the slot for every single 3 wide receiver set that the Bucs did in the preseason. He was on the field for every single snap of Jameis Winston's in the preseason, and he absolutely was eating. Yes, now Mike Evans didn't play in week 3 of the preseason, hasn't played at all really in the preseason or much of camp practices, but Chris Godwin has been getting the looks. After Chris Godwin just played a whole first half, I think he had like 7 targets. He had like 60 receiving yards on 5 receptions coming out of the slot primarily. This is going to be a very big year for Chris Godwin. Look, his ADP has crept all the way up. A month ago, you were able to get him in the 5th round. Now you're going to try to fight to get him in the 4th round, and he's a very good 4th round receiver. Like if you miss the turn on the Chris Godwin 4th round, your interest in Tyler Boyd should go even higher. If you get both of them, your wide receiver corps in the 4th and 5th round going to Chris Godwin and Tyler Boyd is elite. You're getting elite wide receivers out of those two players who are going to probably push for top 15 to top 20 wide receivers this year. And Chris Godwin has all the upside in the world to be a top 10 wide receiver for the amount of snaps he's going to play running out of the slot in that offense. And already all indicators in the preseason from what we've seen out of these decent sample sizes now of about a whole game now, 4 quarters of play from Chris Godwin, a half in week 3, and then a quarter in each of week 1 and 2 pretty much. It looks really, really good. Chris Godwin is probably overall in the entire draft at any position my favorite player to target. Maybe some bias from the Penn State, but lots of upside this year. If you've not heard the name, if you don't know what's happening in Bucs camp right now and kind of what they're building their offense around, they're not building their offense around really Mike Evans. Listen to what they're saying. They said Chris Godwin is going to be on the field for 110% of the snaps is a legitimate quote from Bruce Arians. So I'm very excited for Chris Godwin. Make sure you're prioritizing this guy. Next up, Chris Carson. So Chris Carson, you might have missed the boat on him. You were able to get him in like the 6th round a month ago. Now you have to push for him in the 3rd round, but he's still going to be fine. He has closed the gap, and really closed the gap, I mean he's widened the gap actually between him and Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny is at risk of just being cut. Like Rashad Penny has looked terrible in the preseason, came in overweight. Chris Carson has made the gap go so wide. If you watch my previous video, we couldn't fit that gap on screen, but now he's going to be a 3-down pass catching back. This is a guy who, if you miss out on some running backs in the 1st round, let's just say you go wide receiver in the 1st round, and you go Travis Kelce in the 2nd round. So now you're pretty much set up with your tight end, set up with a number 1 wide receiver. Chris Carson as your number 1 running back in the 3rd or possibly even the 4th round is maybe as good as it gets before you get a huge drop-off overall in terms of what you're going to get your next pass through at the running back position. You're getting a guy who, in my opinion, if he had this much hype on him from a month ago or really from a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, not even a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, if he had this much hype on him, he'd probably be a late 2nd round pick just based on the amount of workload he's going to see. The Seattle Seahawks threw 25% of the time to the running back last year. There's now no Mike Davis back there. There's probably going to be not much work for Rashad Penny. They already said Chris Carson is going to be the primary pass catching back and the 3-down back and the goal line back on an offense that ran the ball primarily last year and also threw it when they did a quarter of the time to the running back. It makes sense. I don't care that you have to reach for him in the 3rd round. If indeed you need a running back at that point, he is probably one of the best ones available on the board. Deebo Samuel. So this might be a name that you don't recognize. So the 49ers, they have 2 young guys out there, Deebo Samuel and Jalen Hurd. Jalen Hurd's been battling injuries, and Deebo Samuel right now is probably going to take Dante Pettis' job, if not to start the year, then probably within the first 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. If you haven't been keeping an eye on San Francisco camp, Dante Pettis has slid down the depth chart, or at least that's what they're reporting, to potentially like the 5th wide receiver. You have Marquise Goodwin, the starter. He's going to be out there on the outside. You have Deebo Samuel, who seems to be a starter, and if they start Pettis to start the year, I don't think he stays out there too much. Pettis dealing with an injury, but also coming into camp not playing well at all. Samuel, the rookie, has been outshadowing him in practices and games. Even Jalen Hurd has. Week 1 of the preseason caught 2 touchdown passes from Hurd. Or he caught 2 touchdown passes, that is Hurd. And then you get Trent Taylor in the slot, and now it's just a really hard place to see that the number 4 to 5 wide receiver on this team is Dante Pettis or Jalen Hurd, right? So Deebo Samuel is probably going to be the starter. He looks really good. He's a guy who can pretty easily develop a rapport with Jimmy G and has a good quarterback there now. I like Deebo Samuel because you're getting him for free pretty much. You're still getting him in the mid to late 13th round. He can be your last pick, and he's a wide receiver with upside. If you learn anything from my channel, do not be drafting bums in the end of your rounds or really at any point, right? Stop drafting the Rashad Penny who you're hoping are going to get you 6 points in a game. Stop drafting the Nyheim Hines who you're hoping are going to get you 6 points the 1 week you use him. No, load up on all the young rookies at wide receiver and at running back, and maybe even at tight end. Load up on all the young guys and just hope that 1 to 2 of them go off, because there's a really good chance the majority of them are going to have decent years for a rookie, and there's going to be some that just totally break away compared to your Nyheim Hines pick who's going to get you 4 points a week. So Deebo Samuel is one of those guys, at least at the wide receiver position, who seems to be automatically in play to get a ton of snaps. Matt Breida, so his teammate, the running back. So Jerick McKinnon, as of yesterday, another setback. Does not seem like Jerick McKinnon is going to get on the field at really any time soon. Maybe not even this entire season with the setbacks with this guy's injury. It's very sad for him. He seemed to be talented, seemed to have an opportunity finally, and now it's gone. Tevin Coleman's in his backfield. He's probably going to get about 60% of the work to start the year, maybe 65%. But Matt Breida is an elite pass-catching running back who they've already said that they want to get on the field a lot. Potentially 3rd downs, and then potentially even more. Matt Breida has been a part of this offense and a big piece of this offense for years, even when they've had some stable backs like a Carlos Hyde or whoever it might have been getting your 15 to 20 touches a game. I don't think Tevin Coleman just comes in and takes 80% of the work. That's not what they've indicated. That's not what they've been saying in the media. Matt Breida, his ADP is skyrocketing. You were getting him a month ago for free in the 14th round. He is now a 9th round pick. That's coupled with a couple of things. One, more hype out of him in the last week or so of the preseason, saying that they're going to give him more touches. But also paired with that is because of the Jerick McKinnon injury. He's now the lead backup running back on the team, and he's also going to be factoring into at least a third of the work in the offense with the ones during the season. So Matt Breida is a guy who, if you're getting him right now in the 10th, 11th, and even 12th round of your actual fantasy drafts for your like friends and family league or whatever, not as sharp people in there, oh my God, draft that man. He's one of the best running back values in the later rounds. In the 9th round, he's still a fine pick, but I'm probably going to get to some other younger rookies. But if he's there sitting in there in the 10th, 11th round, draft Matt Breida. Next up is Darwin Thompson. We've already talked about Darwin Thompson. He is my favorite rookie running back this year in terms of just like where you're getting him in drafts. Now, you could see myself and other people hyping him up. His ADP is now touching the 8th round. It's starting to get a little bit risky there, but he's getting all the work, and he seems to be a guy who's going to just pass up Damian Williams at some point this year. If you're not familiar, you haven't seen my other videos, you can check them out. I have other videos on season-long content, value plays, guys that you should not draft. But Darwin Thompson is a guy you should be drafting. When we did the video like a week or two ago, you can get him in the 11th round. Now, you're going to get him in the 8th round. Why is that, you say? Well, he passed Darrell Williams for the 4th spot for the 3rd spot on this depth chart, and then he passed Carlos Hyde for the 2nd spot on this depth chart. Then he started taking every single goal line snap at practice, and then he started splitting the reps with Damian Williams with the ones in practice, and that's what he's currently doing. I think he's going to take Damian Williams' job very quickly. I think this is going to be a running back by committee more so than people realize with Damian Williams. Darwin Thompson is an absolute stud. Got drafted later in the draft, I believe he was a 6th round pick. Just people absolutely missed on him compared to some of the other running backs that were taken. I'm going to be getting to like a Raquel Armstead from the Jacksonville took him before Darwin Thompson. Makes no sense how people scout players. I'm going to be taking him, maybe not in the 8th round, but I would be fine reaching for him in like the 9th round if he's there in my draft. Lenny Fournette. So Leonard Fournette right now, pretty much been a 3rd round pick, early 3rd round pick all year long, and it seems like he's going to be, as long as he stays healthy, the best 3rd round pick running back in my opinion. If you're getting this guy in the 3rd round of 12-team leagues and you already are at the pass and you already have a good wide receiver, Travis Kelce, or 2 good wide receivers, you're going to be stacked. Leonard Fournette is not coming off the field this year. Like, Alfred Blue's already dealing with injuries, and he's the only competition to Leonard Fournette, and he's not been coming on the field in the preseason. Leonard Fournette in the preseason and in camp has been the 3-down back, as you would expect, but he's catching more passes. They're throwing more to Lenny Fournette. The revolution of the pass-catching running back has hit Jacksonville finally. Lenny Fournette is going to be a monster. Now, he's very inefficient on his yards per carry, but it doesn't matter when they're going to give him 25 attempts, right? And then also you factor in the passing game work, and he's going to be getting every single goal line opportunity in this offense. If Leonard Fournette stays healthy, he's going to be one of the best fantasy values at the running back position in the 3rd round. Definitely take Leonard Fournette before Chris Carson. If Leonard Fournette's gone, Chris Carson becomes a very good pick in sort of the later 3rd round. Leonard Fournette right now, though, going to be on the field for all 3 downs. They said that they want to implement him into the passing game work. He was on the field in every single snap of the preseason with the starters, and he was getting a ton of pass-catching work, not only in practice, but it was kind of shown in those games as well. I'm very high on Leonard Fournette this year, a guy who I'm usually not high on because I like for PPR is pass-catching backs, but it seems like similar to Chris Carson, he's going to be taking on all the pass-catching responsibilities for his team. Lamar Jackson, so the first quarterback and the only quarterback we're going to touch on. I don't understand what you people are doing. Why is Lamar Jackson going still in the 10th round? It's beyond me. Why 3 weeks ago could you get him in the 12th round? It's beyond me. I'm going to continue to draft him in the 10th to 12th round. You guys are all crazy. He broke the record last year for fantasy points per dropback, meaning every time he snapped the ball, on average, how many points he scored. It was like 0.84. Miles more than Patrick Mahomes. Do I think he's a better player than Patrick Mahomes? No, I don't think that. Do I think he's very talented and has fantasy upside? Yes, he does, clearly because of his rushing upside. There's Coach Peak saying he's not going to run as much as last year, but that's fine. We weren't expecting that. If he runs 8 to 12 times a game instead of the 15 times a game that he was running last year, or 12 to 15, I'm completely fine with that. Give us more a pass-catching upside, give us more touchdown equity in that department, and continue to give us our 8 to 12 carries for 50-plus yards a game and then the rushing touchdown upside. The fact that you're not drafting Lamar Jackson as your quarterback 1 in the 10th round or even your high upside backup quarterback is just ridiculous to me. I don't know why nobody's doing it. He is probably my top 1 or top 2 interest in the entire draft. I said that Chris Godwin I have a lot of interest in, but if we're talking about I wait on quarterbacks, I don't draft quarterbacks anytime early. They just are all so similar. Outside of like a Patrick Mahomes, but even then, if you're talking about, I'd rather have in the 3rd round or 2nd round instead of Patrick Mahomes, I'd rather have a Travis Kelce or any of those top running backs or wide receivers. Lamar Jackson in the 10th round, the rushing upside is there. This guy is an absolute monster. They said that they're going to run less. I don't believe it. I don't know why you're not getting to Lamar Jackson, a guy who has a built-in floor of like 5 fantasy points on the ground, and that's if he doesn't score a touchdown, right? Built-in floor of 5 fantasy points on the ground is something that not another quarterback in the entire league, outside of maybe Deshaun Watson / Kyler Murray, can say. Yeah, and that's the ground. Like that's his bottom number for rushing attempts. In terms of like 5 fantasy points, if he either gets in the end zone or rushes for 50 yards, yes, this guy's going to run the ball like 8 to 10 times a game minimum. So you could be damn sure that he's going to be rushing for 40 to 50 yards at bottom number. How can you get him in the 10th round right now? To me, is beyond crazy. Honestly, I'd be drafting Lamar Jackson in the 8th round, and I'm probably going to start reaching for him. So other than that, the other guy that I want to talk about, who's actually not on this average draft board position because he's just not getting drafted, pick him up right now in your leagues if you have to. Keyshawn Johnson. Everybody's all hyped on Andy Isabella out there, but Keyshawn Johnson's been the guy getting a ton of snaps in the preseason, both in camp and in games. He's looked absolutely fantastic. He had 84 yards, 7 catches on 7 targets last week as he ran with the first unit offense for pretty much the whole first half with Kyler Murray out there. Keyshawn Johnson, there's a lot of wide receiver depth right now. You have Christian Kirk, who for some reason isn't getting on the field in the preseason. I'd be very worried about drafting Christian Kirk, in my opinion. You have Larry Fitzgerald, the ageless wonder, who will be in the slot for a lot of the time. And on the outside, you have Hakeem Butler, you have Andy Isabella, but Keyshawn Johnson is the PPR guy to own in this offense if you're not paying up for Larry Fitz, who I'm not drafting any 30-plus-year-old players. If you're not paying up for Larry Fitz or Christian Kirk, who I'm not really that high on, Keyshawn Johnson, remember the name, draft him, pick him up right now, get him in the last round of your drafts. This kid's going to be absolutely dynamite. So these are players that at their current draft positions I want to target, and I think that you must have them. So I appreciate it. Check out the rest of these videos for season long. I do daily fantasy research as well every single day. So if you hit the subscribe button, if you got any value, like the video, whatever you have to do, hopefully this helps you. My name's Sal. You can follow me on Twitter. Hit me up with any questions down below or on Twitter at SalVetriDFS. Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day. Best of luck in your drafts. Peace out, gang.
Hey, hold up. 1 second. Check out this page. If you haven't yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button, all right? And if you're interested in Patreon, if you're not already a Patreon, you can hit that button on Patreon, become a Patreon. It will take you right there. You can also check me out on Twitter at SalVetriDFS. And hey, if you're interested, this next video that's about to pop up, why don't you check it out as well. See ya.